Hello, good evening. My name is Scott, and I would like to share a story about COVID. And I was traveling in 2020, and my daughter and family, my mom and my aunt, we was coming from Colorado and dropping off my mom to Arizona, and then I was going to fly back to Hawaii. And they needed to test 3 days before we get on the plane. And the third day, the day we were supposed to get on the plane, I test positive for COVID, and my granddaughter too. And I'm struggling. Should I tell the airport, the airlines, that I have COVID, because I want to get back home to Hawaii, and I'm in Arizona. And the right thing to do was to not get on the airplane, because give COVID to everybody else. And at that time, Arizona was raising very fast, the corona. And so I decided not to go back to Hawaii. And maybe 2 hours after I test positive, we went into a clinic, and they said, yeah, you're positive. And within 2 hours, I was in a hospital. I was throwing up a little bit, didn't feel right. And right away, it got very bad. And I've never been sick in my life, never been in hospital. So, and the COVID was so new, they didn't know, they had no cure, they had no medicine, they were still working on it. And within 24 hours, I was on a ventilator. They put the tube down into my lung, could barely breathe. And I was in a coma. They take you, and they couldn't give me any medicine. So basically, it's whatever you have in your body and whatever medical help can come forward is the only thing that I had or would have had working for me. And during when I was in a coma, or, knocked out, I had this dream. And the dream was, if you can see this here, I was in the bed, and Satan and COVID was here. And this is the wall. There was a wall all the way, and the wall was red and black. It was like a crossword puzzle, jigsaw puzzle, but instead of round corners, very sharp, and red and black, all the way. And I needed to get past here to this side of the wall to be okay. But I knew I was very sick. I couldn't do it myself. So I had no power. There was absolutely no power, but I knew these two were here, and they was together. It was Satan and the COVID was together. And on the other side of the room, was Jesus. And I'm looking at Jesus, and he's not, no emotion. He's like, it's okay, but I don't understand because I'm dying. I feel like I'm dying. And I'm looking at Jesus, and can't you do something? And the dream went away. I woke up. On the second floor of the hospital, it was filling up very fast. And the room next to me, nighttime, the man, it was a man, and he said, "Get out." He's screaming, "Get out. Who let you in me? Who gave you permission to come inside of me?" And I'm listening, and the dream came back again. That's when the dream came. I remembered this again. And 2 weeks later, week to 2 weeks later, in the morning, a Christian lady that worked in the hospital, she was the one that took blood. And she came down to my bedroom and I told her my story. I told her about this. And she told me about a verse, Mark 4, 35, 41. And I'll read it through, and I won't paraphrase it, but it says, this is after Jesus was teaching and he was in the boat. And after that day, the evening came and Jesus said to his disciples, let's go over to the other side of the lake. Let's go. And they left the crowd behind, and they were all in the boat. And while they were out in the lake, a furious squall came up, big wave came up, big weather came up. And the wave broke over the boat. So it was nearly, they call swamp, but the boat was sinking. And Jesus was in the front of the boat. He's sleeping on a pillow. And the disciples all went over and they wake up Jesus. And they said to him, Jesus, don't you care if we drown? In other words, they're afraid. And he got up, Jesus got up, and he rebuked the wind and he rebuked the waves. And the wind died down and the sea got calm. And he said to his disciples, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? The lady told me this story, and then it finally made all of this made sense. And I realized then many things. One was that even the disciples, as close as they were to Jesus, they still have fear. They still have fear. And so when I'm not connected to God, I open myself up to the fear. And I realized that. And another one was in the room when it was here, Jesus stayed in the room with me. He wasn't like over here or somewhere far away, but he was in the room with me. And that was important because I understood the man that was in the other room, he wasn't saved. So what he was dealing with was this. And he didn't know that there was a way or someone that could help him. Be aware of. Eventually the man got saved, him and his wife. They wanted to have the doctor kill them because they were in so much pain. They asked for the hospital to terminate him. And they later got saved. And I never got to talk to him about, that. And another thing was, I realized that I'm working too hard. Try to do good. I'm Christian, I'm baptized. I believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that he was raised, and that he died for us. But there's the part about I still have these wrong fears, the bad fears. And I understand that I wasn't born in the garden with fault. So if we're born in God's image and likeness, there is that kind of fear is not in God. So therefore it shouldn't be in us. And then I realized it's from Satan. And so all of these things happened in that room that I don't need to. I'm saved already. Why are you working so hard to be? You can't go anymore. Scott, you're saved. Jesus said, don't worry. And that's like, okay, now I get the look. What he was showing me was, don't worry. And it's changed me because I'm one of them guys that worries about everything. And And now I step back and say, because it's Jesus, I get the picture again. Don't worry. And even if I would die there, it would be okay. Because, fear of death, why should I be afraid of death? But I have them fears still going on. And this wasn't from God. And that fear comes from Satan and stuff. And being able to separate that, because as a Christian, we can ask God, we can ask in Jesus' name to cast out. And because we are disciples. And so we have that power. And so my life has got a whole lot not so worried. Still going on it, still working on it. But it took that situation for me to put me in another place with my faith. Thank you. So there's more to the healing story about the COVID. When I was in the hospital, they told me that COVID, if your lung gets COVID, and I had breathing problems, so the COVID was in the lung. And they told me it can damage your lung, and you may have to be in a wheelchair, you cannot walk. All of them things is what's happening with COVID patients. So I couldn't lift a pin. When I come out, I had to do physical therapy. I could not walk stairs. I could not go from here to there. I had to go into physical therapy and occupational therapy. And when I went into Arizona, into the occupational hospital, I told them, all I want to do is for you to help me get better so I can get on a plane and get back to Hawaii. Because I was already gone 2 months. My wife came, left her job, because they told her I might die. So I just wanted to leave because it wasn't my home. And so I got well enough, got on the plane, got home, and then I go see my doctor. And she looked at the lung from coming back from Arizona, from the hospital. She says, I don't see any corona damage in your lung. And so I'm okay. Yeah. So that was God healing me from if it was COVID, he healed me from the COVID too, the damage.